Thank you so much, and thank you Exchange for Media and Karan Bhatia for organizing today. Very important topic around ESG imperatives and integrating environmental and social governance into PR strategies. Thank you so much to all our speakers. I just want to kick off by saying that today the ESG story is getting unearthed in every organization, and really increasingly CEOs today are compelled to tell that story. However, obviously it's easier said than done. You all are facing it every day in terms of how to communicate and the challenges that come with it. Leaders today are struggling to understand what ESG means to their organization, who's responsible for really integrating ESG into the organization and the enterprise across, and how are they executing it on their environmental, social, and governance, and more importantly, how are they really talking it cohesively, externally and internally across their stakeholders. Obviously, we'd want to hear your thoughts, but really 4 areas we were thinking, key themes that I've kept, and we'll try and cover it basis the time, but there's a lot of time given to us, so 23 minutes, it's some important points that need to come in. One, obviously, kicking off, the first one is around how integrating ESG becomes increasingly important for PR strategies and the impact on companies' reputation and stakeholder trust. I want to kick off with you, Bhavna, first, and really the question is around, the themes behind ESG are really interconnected, right? How do you kind of take climate risk without not addressing employee health and safety? And how are you managing such intricate issues within your organization, and also looking at from more of a communication perspective?
So I think it's commonly known fact that the resources are depleting much faster and much more higher proportionate compared to the kind of people who are trying to avail those resources. We're talking about 8.6 billion by 2030 and maybe 11 by about 2035, 39. If we are looking at resources to be used right, we have to ensure that we have to give it, we have to give it a right treatment in terms of environment. Keeping that as a big picture, the IDC, there's an IDC report of 2023 which says ESG business will be about $158 billion in the next year. And what is ESG business services? I mean, these are talking about catering to environmental, social, and government services. And if companies are actually looking at investing in this, why are they investing in this? I was just looking at another report which said about 66% of a company, where we were speaking about purpose-driven companies this morning, and about 66% of the companies who are talking about purpose are valuing transparency today. So I think both customers and employees want to know the kind of value the companies are driving, but also what are we taking away from this face of earth, in terms of resources. How answerable are we to the society? How answerable are we in terms of compliances? I think for us to tell a brand story, telling an ESG, a story based on the ESG pillars just becomes very integrated. I mean, it becomes so obvious that that would be a main component of it. Looking back at my own industry, I come from agri-tech. If I mean, our company is not able to talk about the value we are able to add back in terms of environmental sustainability, and if I don't show that through due diligence and sort of inculcating faith through evidence, how am I even going to build the brand? So I think that's like the basis to cater to the ESG. I think that's what it becomes so integral as a part of my brand reputation story.
Bhavya, coming to you, I mean, is it fair to expect that stakeholder scrutiny of a business performance on ESG issues will only continue to accelerate as we move along? And how do you ensure not only the progress on ESG initiatives is well captured, but also really reported on a continuous basis? How is Urban Company doing this, or any points that you would like to add on this one?
Thanks, Abhishek. I think the scrutiny is only going to increase here onwards, right? We are seeing increased impact investments. We are seeing more investor interest in this area, and obviously regulators are also getting more stringent about policies and introducing new regulatory policies and frameworks as well for that matter. So expecting that companies can sit back and ignore ESG overall, I don't think that's happening anytime soon. What companies overall would need to do is bring in a lot more transparency and I think rigor in terms of how they're talking about what they're doing in clear terms. At UC, what we've been able to do is be more transparent about all the efforts that we're making towards our ESG commitments that we, for instance, this will be our third ESG report that we'll release later this month. As a private company and the space that we're in, we're actually not required to even disclose our ESG commitments, but we've been doing that on a voluntary basis for the past 3 years. We have outlined our own commitments. We've been talking about the partner enablement initiatives that we have implemented and continue to report progress on those. Chiefly among them, I will just take one example here, would be the Partners Earnings Index, something that we developed and launched almost 3 years ago and have been at a frequency of almost 6 months. We've been sharing how much our gig workers who are working associated with UC are earning transparently across the platform. I don't think anyone else in this space has been that transparent, and that kind of brings consumers trust us more in that sense.
And it even becomes more relevant when the ESG rankings come alive, right?
I'm really hoping for that.
So, Param, I just want to bring you in now, and it's really an outside view. We witnessed narratives a decade ago, right? I mean, business is doing business, then there was the triple bottom, and now almost every quarter we talk about businesses working more responsibly in a more sustainable way. What, according to you, are genuine ESG initiatives? And they're really not an activity to talk about. I was just trying to stay away from the word PR.
Thank you. Firstly, I would not kind of accept the fact that it's an outside view, because what ESG initiatives or the thing that needs to be taken care of is about partnership. You know, this is the idea which people or companies or bringing together civil society organizations or PR companies need to rely more on, and that is about partnership. So we are all together in the growth story of a company, and that is what has been very missing in lot of initiatives or lot of things that we see. But what genuine initiatives that needs to be taken up, and why PR strategy becomes more relevant right now, is that there are a lot of miscommunication that goes out, because there is a whole lot of digital media, there's a whole lot of PR media, which is bringing up issues which is not the same it is. So what is looking right may not be right. So this whole idea of looking right and what is not right is something that needs to be brought out in a better way. The facts are not coming out. There are still figures which has been concealed. PR strategists are not part of the whole building process. You know, the core strategy of a company with the mission or vision is there. I'm not saying it has been completely, it's not there at all, but still a lot of work needs to be done in making that strategy together. You know, we build it together for, it's part of a mission or a vision, rather than being looked at it as a, as a separate vertical where someone is funding and, there is a ESG initiative that needs to be taken care. Most of the companies, my friends say that, ESG is being tackled by the HR person only, and, there is nobody who is taking care. It may not be applied for all companies, but most of the companies. So I think we are still to bring the ethical work practices, the governance issues, the social issues are still not coming out in totality. Like, there is no integrated communication plan. So for example, I was doing a research on this issue, and I saw that, like a company like Starbucks, they are going to have 10,000 greener stores by 2025. And what they only do, or what they probably in their strategy think is, they would end up doing a press release and of a store that has been opened, and that's it, that is the all information. So usse genuinity ya credibility nahi samajh mein aata hai. Usse ye samajh mein aata hai ki one odd event hai which has been done. So if what genuineness or credibility will come if there's a whole round of year of an comms plan which companies should be waiting to accept from PR agencies or people who support in PR. So we need to have thought-provoking pieces, we need to have impactful ground case studies, we need to have timely press releases. So that will all make the entire ESG initiative very credible. So I think that is what is required.
I have a follow-up question to what you said. I just want to ask that if who's going to tell the HR professionals that ESG is not your domain, and who should in the organization be holding ESG positions?
So ESG is a very different, so the company itself, that's what I'm saying, that companies are getting funds, for example, but still it is not in their mission thought. It has been taken up as a vertical, or it has been not given that much priority. Some companies are giving that priority. That's why bigger campaigns, big things are coming up. But the companies have to put it into the, it's like the company, the main person and the PR professionals have to come together to bring up a core strategy. It's not like client giving up a direction that, हमें ESG initiative करना है तो उसके लिए we have to build up the governance thing. So in totality, the things are, I feel, missing. But I'm sure there can be different views.
I just want to add to that. And the fact that we are bringing this conversation up as to who is going to be talking about it, that itself is a fundamental, I think, gap. Because things like ESG should be a part of the DNA of a company. We are talking about sustainability. And sustainability is not limited to environment or HR. We're talking about business sustainability also. So if business sustainability, and the reason we have to be here for a long time, and if that's our, making money is important, but also taking care of our talent is important, taking care of our other resources is important. So it should be engraved in our DNA, and it shouldn't be treated as a separate vertical. So it shouldn't be HR or PR or anybody talking about it. All of us together, including it. The term I've started liking very much right now is sustainable innovation. In whatever we do, I could be an HR professional, I could be a comms professional, I could be a product manager. If we are talking about sustainable innovation and use that as a way to go, I think we are all already in it. And we as comms people, we're looking at building the brand. So take those examples to tell the story better.
Bhavya, you want?
Yeah, I just wanted to add some great points, Paroma and Bhavna. One thing that you mentioned, Paroma, was the entire comms plan that needs to be there, and talking about the initiatives. My question here is, do journalists want to write about it? I mean, I think a lot of companies do some fantastic work, but that never gets picked up, that never gets talked about. You can have a whole lot of internal comms around it. You can put it all on your own branded social media channels, but there is no journalist wanting to talk about it or even cover it in a simple press release. So, I mean, there is us talking about it, there's us doing it, but then the fact that we have to move the needle from suspicion to trust, the owners cannot be just us. There needs to be the journalist side of it as well.
And that needs to be discussed a lot more in terms of, the second thought could be, why PR it at all? I mean, why does it need to be communicated externally? It's a thing that you're doing which is part of your sustainable innovation, and everything doesn't need to be spoken about externally from the lens of, get me 2 pieces of coverage tomorrow, or I'm just speaking on behalf of the PR agencies here. So I want to just move on to theme 2, right? How can PR professionals address potential accusations of greenwashing or social washing, and what are the challenges that are emerging in the industry? I want to start with you. You're in a very sensitive space of agriculture and farmers. How do you balance your messaging and mitigate any such counter narratives that are building up?
It's very interesting. We are in the space of agri-tech, but we do seed and crop protection and agronomy. And I use crop protection very sheepishly because crop protection actually is using chemicals and pesticides to make your crops better. The minute I say that, I'm considered as a villain in the room because we are, making our plants and food unhealthy. But that's absolutely the opposite. And I'm giving the example of my industry here because, I'm going back to the growing population, right? If we need to feed 8.6 billion people in the earth, we need to have better yield. And if we have to have better yield, we need to have better plants which are healthier, and we need X amount of crop protection, like how we need pharmaceuticals for our health. But how are we telling that story? So there is us telling the story as to, yes, we are bringing chemicals, but we are bringing in chemicals and pesticides which are good for the environment, but also good for plant yield and for people. And which are not spoiling the flora or fauna. Tell that story with facts, and we are able to talk about our R&D innovation, rather than just putting a label of, for example, in our industry, the famous phrase is organic. And just slap organic and you can sell anything. Yeah. I think that's the example of greenwashing, because organic is actually unhealthy food, because no food can be healthy if it is grown naturally. It doesn't give you, today the atmosphere, the climate vagaries will not allow the food to be healthy if it's grown in a natural manner. So anything where you say organic is greenwashing it. So we're so used to listening to a phrase like that, the minute we say agrochemicals or pesticides, it's very tempting for us to say, okay, we are natural. But instead of saying that, tell the truth, talk about the facts, and bring those facts and treat your farmers or your customers as intelligent people are, telling them the truth and the whole truth. Yeah. I think that's important.
Bhavya, I just want to come to you as a direct consumer-facing service business, how are you ensuring that your messaging on ESG initiatives is perceived to be genuine among your stakeholders?
I'll actually take the, so if you look at the entire gig space right now, all platform marketplaces, most of the narrative here is of low incomes, below minimum wage, no protection, people are being exploited. That's how the entire industry is more or less being painted. Within that though, whenever it's about, the conversation is about UC, it's not about wages, because we are paying, our partners are earning more than almost average 30,000 a month. Right? It's not about us, UC, not giving them social protection measures. We have insurance, we have access to credit, we have a lot of other options also available for our partners. The conversation is also not about this is just a short-term gig platform or something like that, simply because what we are doing is we are investing in their training and skilling. These are lifetime skills that we are imparting to our partners. These are not temporary stopgap solutions. Like you're studying in college and you want some quick bucks, so you start gigging and then take a full-time job. These are actual careers and trades that have been there forever. So I think in the entire space itself, we've been able to ensure that we are not painted in that singular brush stroke that is marring the rest of the industry. And that, I think, says a lot about how we've been able to talk about our initiatives.
Prabha, you do a lot of groundwork, right, in terms of, in reality, what's happening. How do you kind of keep a check on it's just not greenwashing or just lip service that's happening on what's really happening on ground?
Yeah, actually, the scenario has changed a lot. People are much more aware. We think that, at groundwork, everything can work out, I remember in one of our villages in Jharkhand, a food processing, food company came and they said that we need the farmers for this particular rate, and they were not at all aware and they just moved up. But 2 years, 3 years down the line at the same village, you really can't go and say that, this is the thing that is going on. And also at the grassroots also, people have become much more aware thanks to digital or the things that they see or the people that they talk. For all the multiple conferences and seminars and workshops that is going on ground, I mean, they are much more aware, but still, what is still lacking, which is not going on and people are still working on, is that at the grassroots, the people are, you know, they are waiting for companies to tell them that we are doing this for the benefit of you. We are doing this for the benefit of the sustainability or greenery. That is something is getting accepted at the grassroots, which was not getting accepted maybe as fresh as 2 years from now. So I think, मतलब अब बहुत ज़्यादा बेवकूफ़ बनाना इतना आसान नहीं है, लेकिन थोड़ा बहुत मतलब we are going there but coming back again. But I mean all the collective work has, you know, for all the companies, for all the regulations from the SEBI, all the, you know, everything, for all the you know, importance that has been given to the third party audits and all. I think all that messaging has gone to even the grassroots as much as it has gone to, you know, people sitting at the top positions.
Thank you. I'm just aware of the time, so I just take one on the theme 3 and then we move to theme 4. How does commitment to ESG factor plays a role in brand managing risk and reputation? And I just want to come to you, Bhavya, on this one. You know, you release an annual ESG report which, you know, covers economic empowerment, equity, social security. Has this really helped? And I know we discussed this, but not from a point of view of whether journalists cover it or not, but from an overall brand reputation perspective. Do you think the annual report or just putting it out there kind of helps the company's reputation?
I think just putting out the annual report doesn't do much. It's about how regularly, constantly, across all touch points are you communicating those aspects that you've covered in the annual report. Yeah. So annual report is simply just a compilation of everything that you're doing and you put it out together in one go and publish it. But if you're not talking about it constantly, it's almost like being a broken record, right? Across all your mediums, across all your channels, whether it's internal or external facing, the more you talk about it, the more it registers, the more it sticks. And I think in our case, it has helped us in good stead. Yeah.
Just the last theme now in terms of how do you really communicate this story. And Bhavna, I want to start with you. They call it ESG journey for a reason. How do you ensure that a campaign reflects your business sustainability, focus areas, priorities, and progress to various stakeholders? Just purely from a communication perspective. Sure. A lot of times we think of communication from a very media lens perspective, but really it's about how you're communicating to your stakeholders across, and everybody's not consuming news the same way or through different platforms and channels. How do you kind of look at communication in totality from a 360 perspective and move forward?
Sure. So I think ESG journey, yes, but every company has its own, I mean, in our own state. I mean, if you're looking at linearly, I think there'll be 1 or 2 elements which are more important at any point in time. For example, in our industry, I think E and S are very important. S more sometimes, because we are trying to talk about the importance for farmers who are, like you said, you know, smallholders, and they're supposedly at the low end of the spectrum. But I think as a communications person, it is about balancing these stories, bringing the real life examples about the elements which are relevant and tell that to the stakeholders. And it is not necessary that we tell, like for example, when I'm talking to my bureaucrats, and if I'm talking to ministers and I'm trying to move the policy needle, I don't have to tell the E story to them. I have to tell more the business sustainability story or possibly some elements of governance. But when I'm talking to my customers, I possibly have to tell some other elements. So depending upon which audience I'm talking to, I think it's important for me to tailor-make the narrative there. I definitely should have a layered narrative rather than looking at one. So, and this journey is going to be continuous, and it's going to be for a long time, as long as the band exists. So we'll have to look at different elements.
Bhavya, how do you include your internal team, or what I mean, the largest set of employees into the ESG journey? How do they make companies accountable on what you're doing on ESG?
Employees is a very vague term in our case. I'll talk about how we are including service partners in this conversation. To be honest, a lot of our initiatives have come about the continuous dialogue we have with them, the FGTs. I myself, do so many FGTs with the service partners, whether women or men, all on the same table. And I'll take a very quick example of something we launched in February. It's called Project NIDA. It's a policy supporting survivors of domestic violence. It's an all-inclusive policy supporting both all genders. And this came about through all the conversations that we've been having with our partners, especially women partners, a lot of whom are single mothers or are going through some troubled family relationships or in the process of separation. And we realized that this is something where they need help. It could be immediate lodging support where they've just been beaten up and they just want to get out of the house. Where do they go? It could be financial support. It could be legal counsel. I'll wrap up quickly. So all of those thoughts, inputs helped us come up with this policy. We've partnered with an NGO who's supporting us. But the fact that we could think of doing something, and a lot of other pieces that we've driven, is primarily because it's coming straight from our partners. Right? These are things that they want help with, and these are things that we are implementing. We are listening to them and we are doing it.
Paroma, I just want to bring last question on. Have you seen some great examples of not-for-profit and companies, businesses working together to tell a story?
Yes, of course. Like there has been organizations, in Jharkhand, MICA has been a very important aspect. So 2005, there were companies like Estee Lauder who were joining in with a lot of non-profit organizations or foundations who were present there. And, they were there to do their own responsibility of, they were getting used MICA in the cosmetics and in the cars, BMWs, all of this. But, together the corporate and the NGOs came together, and 20 years down the line, there is a child labor-free MICA right now. And, there is no children who are involved in MICA. So this whole big 20 years of campaign that has worked on there, and it has worked very well. Now the entire community is no more dependent upon that. Similarly, there have been like for the, the good weave.
Are you shutting off the mic or? Oh. Sorry.
So there's been an initiative called the Good Weave, where there was a social labeling initiative of, that there was no child labor in carpets. So this whole carpet industry from Mirzapur, now there are no children there. So a lot of companies who were making carpets in South Asia, in Europe, they clubbed up with the communities and all. And so there is no children now involved in making carpets. Similarly, there are a lot of programs from Adidas and Nike who are going back to education, going back to school. Has been a lot of bigger programs. So there has been a collaboration, and people are moving out and, giving that message very openly and very promptly.
Thank you so much. A big round of applause for the three wonderful panelists, Paroma, Bhavna, and Bhavya. Thank you.